Willie Colón spent nearly 6 decades building something that outlasted every trend, every era, and every attempt to push Latin music to the margins of American culture. He did it with a trombone, a relentless work ethic, and a voice that spoke directly to the experience of being Puerto Rican in the United States. On Saturday, February 21, 2026, William Anthony Colón Román passed away peacefully at the age of 75, surrounded by his family. No cause of death was provided. The news traveled fast, crossing borders and generations within hours. But what exactly did the world lose when Willie Colón died, and why does it matter to people far beyond the Latin music community? To understand the answer, you have to go back to the South Bronx in the 1950s and 1960s. Willie Colón was born on April 28, 1950, to Puerto Rican parents who had settled in one of New York City's most vibrant and challenging neighborhoods. His grandmother Antonia raised him on Spanish language and Puerto Rican culture, making sure he never lost the thread connecting him to the island even as he grew up surrounded by the streets of New York. He picked up the trumpet at age 12, playing on street corners in the neighborhood, and later shifted to the trombone, the instrument that would become his signature. By the time he was 16 years old, he was already recording professionally. That kind of trajectory is rare under any circumstances. At 16, most young men are still figuring out who they are. Willie Colón was already building a legacy. In 1967, at just 16, he recorded his first album, El Malo, alongside vocalist Héctor Lavoe for the Fania record label. That partnership became one of the most celebrated in the history of salsa music. The album gave the world songs like Calle Luna, Calle Sol, Abuelita, El Día de mi Suerte, and Juana Peña. It also introduced a distinctive sound that drew from jazz, mambo, jibara music, and cha-cha-cha, genres that had been circulating through New York's Latin communities as Caribbean immigrants shaped the cultural identity of the city. Salsa was not simply a style of music, it was an expression of a people navigating two worlds at once, and Willie Colón understood that from the very beginning. But how far would that sound travel, and how deep would its roots go? The answer came quickly. In 1972, Colón released the album that helped define what became known as the New York Sound. That term referred to a specific synthesis of Caribbean rhythms and urban American energy, a combination that felt entirely new while remaining deeply rooted in tradition. The New York sound sparked renewed interest in Latin music throughout the 1970s and helped bring salsa to audiences who had never encountered it before. Colón was not just performing music, he was actively expanding its reach, taking it to stages where it had not previously been heard, and making the case, through every performance and every record, that this music deserved to stand alongside anything else being produced in the United States or anywhere else in the world. His collaboration with Panamanian singer-songwriter Rubén added another dimension entirely. In the mid-1970s, Colón introduced Blades to lead his orchestra, and together they began pushing salsa in a direction that surprised even longtime fans. Their 1975 album, Metiendo Mano, marked what many consider Colón's first real foray into what some called intellectual salsa, music that carried political weight and social commentary alongside its rhythm and melody. Their follow-up album, Siembra, went further still, incorporating disco rhythms while diving deeper into political themes. It sold more than 3 million copies worldwide and became one of the best-selling and most consequential albums in the history of the genre. What does it mean when music becomes that kind of cultural force, and what was Colón trying to say through it? His manager, Pietro Carlos, answered that question directly in a tribute posted after Colón's death. He described Colón's work as not just music, but identity, neighborhood, consciousness, and resistance. Those words carry specific meaning when you consider the context of Latino life in New York during the decades when Colón was most active. Puerto Ricans in the city faced discrimination, economic hardship, and a constant tension between assimilation and cultural preservation. Colón used his music to explore that tension directly. According to a biography posted by the Los Angeles Philharmonic, he used his songs to depict the problems of living in the United States as a Puerto Rican, while also affirming the cultural contributions that Puerto Ricans had to offer. His trombone, as Carlos put it, echoed the sound of the Caribbean in New York and bridged two cultures that the broader society often treated as incompatible. He also worked extensively alongside other giants of Latin music. He produced recordings with Celia Cruz, Ismael Miranda, and Rubén Blades across multiple projects. As a solo artist, he pursued musical fusions that kept his catalog fresh and relevant across decades, producing songs like El Gran Varón, O Que Será, and Amor Verdadero. By the end of his career, his output included more than 40 productions, 30 million copies sold, 15 gold records, 5 platinum records, and 10 Grammy nominations. The Latin Recording Academy recognized his lifetime contributions with its Musical Excellence Award in 2004, one of the most significant honors in the field. That kind of record does not happen by accident. It happens through sustained creative commitment over decades. So what kept Willie Colón working at that level for so long, and what drove him beyond music entirely? The answer is that for Colón, music was never separate from responsibility. Outside the recording studio, he became a prominent social activist who supported the Latino Commission on AIDS and the United Nations Immigrant Foundation. He served on the board of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, and in 2014, in a move that surprised many, he graduated from a police academy in New York and was sworn in as a deputy sheriff for the Department of Public Safety. This was a man who believed that showing up mattered, whether on a stage in front of thousands or in a community that needed people willing to serve. His sense of purpose extended well beyond any single role or achievement. The immediate outpouring of tribute following his death reflected the breadth of that impact. The Latin Recording Academy described his legacy as one that transformed salsa by making it a global phenomenon and establishing a sound and aesthetic that defined an era and continued to inspire generations of artists. His family's statement acknowledged grief while also expressing gratitude for the music and memories he created that, in their words, will live on forever. Among those paying tribute was Bad Bunny, one of the most streamed artists in the world, currently touring on his Debí Tirar Más Fotos world tour. The Puerto Rican superstar had already honored Colón earlier this year in the song Nueva York, name-checking him in the lyrics and briefly featuring him in the music video. At his concert in São Paulo, Brazil, on the evening of Colón's death, Bad Bunny paused his performance to address the crowd. He told them that one of the legends who contributed to this beautiful and legendary genre had passed away, and he offered peace and strength to the Colón family on behalf of himself and his band, Los Sobrinos. He said the inspiration of those great musicians who left their mark on the earth would never die as long as talented young people kept the music, salsa, and all Caribbean rhythms alive. That moment brought many in the audience to tears. Why does that kind of tribute resonate so deeply, even among people who may not know every record Colón ever made? It resonates because Willie Colón represented something that transcends genre or era. He was a child of immigrants who grew up in one of America's toughest neighborhoods and turned what he found there, the music, the tension, the identity, the struggle, into something universal. He never left behind where he came from, and he never stopped trying to push forward. He was a Grammy-nominated recording artist, a political voice, a community activist, and a sworn law enforcement officer, all in one lifetime. He is survived by his wife, Julia Craig, whom he married in 1991, and their children. Willie Colón was 75 years old. The trombone has gone quiet, but the music he made is not going anywhere.